Pre-order my books in the description below. So, Nintendo has confirmed that they are revealing the Nintendo Switch within the next fiscal year by the end of March 2025. We already got like some confirmation about this last year, which leads me to believe that we're going to get the official reveal in March 2025, and then maybe getting it like later that year by the end of the year or so, right? Essentially, we have about a year of solid Nintendo Switch releases to go, a year and a half probably of solid Nintendo Switch releases to go, and I couldn't be more excited. Finally, we have a little bit of real confirmation that the Nintendo Switch successor is on the way. Now, we don't know anything about it. We don't know anything about like what Nintendo is trying to do here. We don't know anything about the games. Like we just have like a general idea of what we can expect. And at the very least, I relish the fact that it's not coming out this year. You know, at the very least, I will come out and say again that all the rumors were wrong. You know, all the player essences, all the Arlos, all like the RGT 85s, like all of this endless rumor mongering, this idea that the console would be coming out early this year. We're completely wrong. I've seen people like point out the fact that people were predicting the end of the Switch by like the end of 2022. Okay, like there were people who were saying that Tears of the Kingdom would be a Switch 2 exclusive. But the way it looks now, I think it's very likely that we are going to get, a new Mario game on the Switch 2's the next Nintendo console's launch period window. I do think it's likely we'll get a new Mario Kart. I do think it's likely we'll see like quite a few new entries in beloved IPs that we haven't seen since like the early Switch days, right? Like I do think in a lot of ways that, well, first of all, the Switch isn't going anywhere, right? Uh After looking at like past year or so of Nintendo Switch releases, like we've seen like a lot of really good stuff. Princess Peach Showtime, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, Fire Emblem Engage, right? Like it has been like an absolute killer year for Nintendo software in general, and I do think we are going to continue seeing like reasonably good games well into the Nintendo Switch successor's life cycle, right? I do think the Nintendo Switch will stay on store shelves for quite some time as a more budget-friendly alternative to like the brand new thing. So that's another thing that people aren't really addressing is that the Nintendo Switch is going to remain very, very relevant going into the life cycle of the next platform, right? And I do think going into this next platform, going into this next new thing, I do think it is going to be harder to trick people into thinking that Nintendo consoles can't support like the big AAA games, right? So I do think Call of Duty is going to have to become crawling back. I do think like Grand Theft Auto 6 might have to consider coming back. Like I do think if Nintendo could theoretically set it up in a way where the Nintendo Switch successor comes out, has Grand Theft Auto 6 on there, fully intact, identical to the other versions, like day one, right? Like there really isn't going to be any way that the industry is going to be able to trick people into thinking that uh the third party games can't run on Nintendo consoles, right? Like I do think that mindset has been dying for a long time, but assuming that Grand Theft Auto 6 is on there, assuming like the biggest game ever is on Nintendo consoles, like nobody's gonna be able to come out and try to say that like, oh, Switch is for adults. Switch isn't. Nintendo is for kids. It's not for adults. We can't put our adult games on there. Like, but Grand Theft Auto's on here, Mortal Kombat's on here, Call of Duty's on here. But our game's more mature than those. Like, again, it's obviously been completely ridiculous, right? Right, like the instant this narrative was introduced, like in the '90s, but I do think that come the next Nintendo console, we're gonna see like more and more of an inability to keep up the narrative, right? And I'm very curious if Nintendo is going to do this or not. Like now they don't need to have Grand Theft Auto day one, and honestly, I would prefer that they not have it because Grand Theft Auto is trash and really deserves to be like considered as such by the community. But um, if it does happen, I do think it'll be like the death nail for the third parties and what they've been trying to accomplish, right? Like it's interesting looking at this report and seeing like Nintendo's results with this kind of thing. The Super Mario Bros. Movie outperformed the Barbie movie, as I said it would. Like it made way more money. Uh, Princess Peach Showtime was a success. It sold like over 1 million units in like 10 days, right? Uh, we we saw like a lot. We've had like a lot of major successes. We have confirmed one more major Nintendo Direct exclusively for Nintendo Switch in June, which we know now will not have Switch 2. Like, so yeah, that narrative that people had, last year that like, oh, the Super Mario Bros. Wonder Direct is going to be the last Nintendo Switch Direct ever. Like that wasn't true. Like we've had several since then, right? So like yeah, so now we have like confirmation that we now that we have a hard date as what we can expect from Nintendo consoles going forward, what we can expect from the company going forward, like it's going to be really hard for people to like downplay the future of the company, right? That's been something I've been noticing over the past couple of weeks with like Sean Malmstrom, like, oh, we're Nintendo is terrified of the transition into the next piece of hardware, rah, but they really don't understand that like Nintendo's more popular than ever, right? I've seen some people like make the claim that Nintendo has been more profitable from 2016 onward than they've been ever, from 1981 to like before that, right? From 2015, like they have established their brands, like the Nintendo brand is iconic now. Like you can't just tell people that the brand is going to fall off any minute now the way you used to because like the idea of that is just ridiculous. After the success of the movie, after the success of the Nintendo platform, of Nintendo Switch, after the success of like everything else they've done, Pokemon is a alone has like the merchandise and like the anime and stuff like that. Like it's only a matter of time until we start seeing like more Nintendo properties start becoming more multimedia franchises. Kirby movies and Nintendo merchandise and clothes and fashion. Like it's just it's expanding more and more and more to the point where I don't believe that a Wii U situation can ever happen again because that was such a result of game journalist corruption at the time and controlling the narrative at the time and the end result of like them telling people for years from the N64 era up until like the dawn of the Nintendo Direct that Nintendo was going bankrupt. They're not good anymore. They don't know what people want and it couldn't be more obvious like today that that simply isn't true, right? Like nobody listens to game journalists anymore. Nobody respects them. Like they are a complete joke, and uh, it's becoming more and more difficult to me to believe in like the age old concept, right? That Nintendo can have a drought of games of a period where like there are no games that anybody wants to play, right? To me, like that seems like it's just never gonna happen because everyone has backlogs, everyone has like re-releases to look forward to, everyone has like things that Nintendo can do. People can revisit old favorites. Like um the Nintendo ecosystem is a self-sustaining one at this point, to the point where like I don't see it failing at its current trajectory like ever, assuming that they don't like completely drop the ball, which I don't see happening. Right? Like I haven't like Furukawa's been doing a great job from what I understand. Right? Now, obviously, like all of my reservations about the company, right? All of my issues with Nintendo going forward, like they have nothing to do with like the core team at all, right? The issue is like just the typical issue I have, like how the old staff is going to retire and like leave things to the new people. Like I'm concerned about like woke culture and how that may have influenced Nintendo's developers and like there are things I'm concerned about going forward now, but as it stands, like I am very optimistic about the future of Nintendo. You know, the Switch has had a great run. I will continue to support it, you know, probably long after the new Nintendo console comes out, right? I will continue playing my Switch for years to come, and I'm very interested in seeing just what Nintendo has in store for us next. Like, I have nothing but optimism for this next piece of Nintendo hardware.